Attention, all curious minds, innovators, and trendsetters. It's time to pause, lean in, and get ready for an extraordinary journey as we dive deep into the fascinating realms of life, technology, entertainment, and business. Let's explore, learn, and grow together. Brace yourselves, for the next thrilling episodes of Hipther Talks is about to take off. Counting down from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And here we go.
Hi everyone, Zoltan here. We're back again this week with the Hipther Talks, and we are sticking to the decentralization sphere. I have the pleasure to have today Charvel Chedraui, CEO at Wayru. Hi Charvel, nice to have you here.
Hello Zoltan, nice to be here. Thank you so much everybody for listening. Glad to be part of this decentralization program.
All right, so thank you so much for joining us. And we have a custom here on the Hipther Talks that we like to have our guest say a few words about themselves before we dive into the podcast questions. So Charvel, just say a few words about yourself and why you got started in this sphere.
Right. So again, my name is Charvel Chedraui. I'm CEO and founder at Wayru. I've been in the telecom sector for over a decade now. I developed the first Wi-Fi marketing platform in Latin America. I worked for a multinational company as the regional Wi-Fi marketing director, where I saw the enormous potential of bringing connectivity to more people in Latin America. So after that, I founded a company that helped businesses at the bottom of the pyramid to make money by sharing Wi-Fi. And after COVID, we closed that business and I started diving myself into blockchain, into crypto. I did it back in 2017, but there was a lot of ICOs, there were scams. So it wasn't like the best at the moment when I was doing the telecom, when my focus was mainly on telecom. So when I started diving in crypto on 2020, that's when I started looking for synergies and opportunities within the blockchain ecosystem to apply to telecommunications. And that's when I founded Wayru, and I've been leading Wayru since mid-2021 until now.
All right, so that's a great story. So I'm also interested about what inspired the creation of Wayru, and why was there a focus on decentralizing internet access?
Right. So what got me started in telecom was that I suffered from this problem myself around 13, 14 years ago when I was lacking connectivity. This is the main problem we're trying to solve. We have to understand that there is almost more than 3 billion people in the world that don't have connectivity. Around 1.5 billion people live in something called internet poverty, which means they cannot get access to a gigabyte of data a month at least 10 megabytes of speed, costing them less than 20 cents a day. So I suffered from this problem myself. I needed to make some tests for college and I wasn't home. And I didn't have mobile data back then. So I had to go to a cafeteria. I have to ask for the password. I had to buy a coffee and the password worked, but the Wi-Fi wasn't working. So I missed my test. And when this happened to me, I asked myself, well, if I have this opportunity and I have enough means to get access or to pay for the coffee, what's happening with people that don't have the same opportunities or are not as lucky as me in that specific moment? And I started researching, and then the United Nations had declared internet access a human right because there was so many people disconnected. And the proportions of disconnected people today are the same as back then. There's just more people alive. So that means more people are disconnected. And that's what got me started on the telecom sector. And as I told you, during COVID, I started researching a little bit more about blockchain. I just threw myself in completely. And then that's when I founded Wayru. And I realized that blockchain and decentralization was a key element that could help solve the lack of connectivity in so many places around the world.
All right. So could you provide maybe some examples of stories about how Wayru, the Wayru network has made a positive impact on communities, and especially in these underserved areas that you mentioned earlier?
Right. So I can tell you a specific story that I have close to my heart, because It was one of the first people that we provided connectivity to in a very low-income community called Monte Sinai in Ecuador. We brought connectivity thanks to an alliance we made with a foundation and with a part of the municipality. And we brought connectivity to 10 homes. And this was the first thing we ever did, right? It was like the first pilot that we ever tried. And then some of these women that we helped out bring connectivity to their homes, they didn't have connectivity during COVID. They told us that it was very hard for them or their kids to either work or go to school because everything was remote in that moment. And this lady, I remember her name is Senora Gladys. She wanted to make a business around what we were providing her because she got internet inside her home and an antenna outside to provide connectivity to others. So what she did, she started the business herself. She started a photocopy business because people needed to get online to send her whatever they needed to get printed or to make some photocopies. And after that, she put a couple of tables outside. She started selling sandwiches because in this area, there was so little connectivity that people went close to her house to get access to this free network that we had provided. So she created a small business around. It's not like something fancy, right? It's very small, but for them, it's a lot. And this is just the start because now she knows that she can provide or at least tell others about her services because she has the connectivity. So this is what one of the things that got us started. This was our first pilot, and this is one of the main drivers that I keep that keep me pushing forward. See these people getting some benefits, right? And another example that I can give you, I don't know if you know the United Nations with the United Nations Refugee Wing, which is called the UNHCR. So they reached out because they had this area in Ecuador as well that they had a lot of refugees with no connectivity. So it was very hard for them to get opportunities. So we presented this opportunity of a sustainable network that was going to pay for itself in the long run due to the usage, right? Because usage generates rewards on the network, and those rewards can be used to pay for whatever the network needs to get to become sustainable, and it just becomes a cycle, right? So we started there, and we selected 20 homes. These 20 other people. We call these. We usually look for women within the community that have a voice within the community. So we call them guardians of the network because we set up the devices in their homes and they take care of the devices. These are very dangerous places as well, to an extent. So they try to make it clear that this is for the community, so nobody messes with the devices. So it makes us deploying in these areas secure for us while deploying, or whoever is deploying, and for the devices, of course, to be there. So after this project started a year ago, we have gotten about 250,000 different users there. We get a daily active users of around 4,000 people in that, and it's only 20 Wi-Fi zones. Why does this work so good? Because of the necessity in these areas. So now this is with the United Nations. So what they did, they created programs around connectivity or around online things that needed connectivity so that people can start using the network a lot more. And we are just renewing this contract to expand that network and to renew it for long term. So yeah, this is another example of impact that I can share with you today.
All right. So can you also explain the benefits and enhancements that are brought by Wayru's integration with Peak? We love Peak, the Peak platform. We often have people here who have integrated with them, and also I'm interested in how does it strengthen both projects, this integration?
Right. So we built Wayru as a multi-chain platform. So our main tech is our Wayru OS, which is a firmware for devices. So we have made sure that we can integrate with any blockchain that we want. But we started an Algorand and we chose Peak as one of the next blockchains due to the to enhance and leverage our network by leveraging Peak's modular deepin functions. You have to understand that deepin is a layer one focused on deepin projects like Wayru, so it makes it very interesting for us. We can also leverage things like multi-chain peak IDs, peer-to-peer machine payments, which is interesting. So our network can be used by other devices as well that need connectivity. So this is very interesting for us as well. The role-based access control is interesting as well, because we have developed something internally that allows the owner to delegate a deployer and a deployer to delegate a host for a specific device. So people can start building like their own economies around our machines, right? And of course, this collaboration allows Wayru to accelerate our mission to connect the unconnected, and it enables users to set up their hotspots on peak. This is part of the idea that users are going to choose what blockchain they want to mint their device on. If they want it on Algorand, if they want it on Pix, if they want it on ITX, all the blockchains that we are aiming to get compatibility before TGE later on this year. And earn rewards and tap into Pix machine DeFi. So I think these are a lot of beneficial factors for Wayru to decide to make this decision of integrating with Peak and other similar DePIN modular blockchains.
All right. So yeah, you mentioned the partnership with the United Nations. Maybe you can say a few words about these partnerships, or
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, the idea behind these partnerships is to bring connectivity to places that don't have the means to get connectivity, or there is not enough coverage, or it's too expensive for them. Just for you to have an idea, in Latin America, there is over 80 million homes with no connectivity. So through these types of organizations, we can help bring connectivity to these places and make it self-sustainable. Maybe they cannot pay $20 a month, maybe they can pay $5, right? And the rest they can do it by watching ads, and by watching ads, they generate rewards by using the network, meaning the network becomes self-sustainable in time. So this is very interesting to them. We were probably one of the first, if not the first project they worked with that was a blockchain or crypto-based project. It was just in Ecuador, but the idea is to expand this way beyond just one city in Ecuador, but dozens of cities and dozens of probably neighborhoods within cities that have no connectivity and in Ecuador, and then go to other places in Latin America and expand to other regions as well. There's regions in Africa and Asia and even rural America in the United States that are lacking connectivity. So I think that working with these organizations and through this partnership, we can exploit by having more partnerships, right? What we're doing can just explode in the future, because since this first partnership has been very successful, we expect this to be replicated, not just by us, because this is an idea that others can also take into consideration. Look into these organizations that can help you bring whatever service or value you're bringing to people closer to the people that most need it.
All right. So how do you guys ensure that the Wayru's Decentralized Internet Access Initiative is inclusive and easy to use for everyone, regardless of their technical background?
Yeah, so we made it very, very, very simple for users. There's two pieces to Wayru: people who share connectivity and people who get connectivity, right? There's actually three pieces. And the third one is people who invest in infrastructures because they cannot deploy the infrastructures themselves. So let's talk about the Wi-Fi user side. What we have built a mobile app that abstracts everything related to blockchain for you to be able to get access online. So if you're a user, you download the app, you create an account, and then you just get online through a Wi-Fi map that we have. We have a Wi-Fi Explorer that shows all the maps, that shows a map with all the networks that are shared in our platform. And within this map, people choose the network and just get online. They don't have to go buy tokens to then use the tokens. on the application, we have abstracted that from them. Whenever they get online, they watch an ad, that revenue we then use to get tokens to provide them
All
access.
right.
Right?
Basic, yeah.
So yeah, so we make it easy for them. So people don't really have to know about blockchain, because you need to have a demand, right, of the network. And most of the users that are going to use the network have no idea what blockchain or crypto is. So we have abstracted that for them completely. They can recharge their accounts if they want with credit card, and they can use crypto as well. Like there's a wallet embedded in the app, so they don't have to take care of the wallet. It's in the app, so it's easy for them. And this is for the Wi-Fi users, very easy. And we're working on a premium app, premium version for the app in the future that shows no ads, and they can just go and get auto connect everywhere that there is a network provided by Wayru. One of the other pieces is people who share connectivity. So there are several factors there. Some companies decide to go with devices that they build their own devices and they sell their devices. We have done that. We will continue to do that in the future as well. But we have a very, very big focus on Wayru OS, which is our proprietary firmware that allows anybody to just go and grab an off-the-shelf device, follow a couple of steps, connecting your device to the computer to turn that device into a Wayru hotspot. It's pretty straightforward. It's not complicated. There are more complicated devices than others, but it makes it accessible for anybody. They don't have to wait for us to have a supply of devices for them to get the devices, right? They can just go and get a compatible device. We already have a list, and we're going to be releasing like a dozen more devices in the upcoming months that are compatible with our system. So it will make it very easy for anybody to deploy their own hotspot just by getting an off-the-shelf third-party device, not having to pay us directly. And the third one that I mentioned, that maybe it doesn't come to the case of how do we make it easy, but since we're here, I can just go ahead and explain it. People can invest in hotspots that we deploy as the foundation through these partnerships to earn from those hotspots, and those investments we use to replicate some things like what we did with the United Nations. So we can bring in more capital to deploy more hotspots, and we share those rewards with the people who invested in specific hotspots. This is all in the documentation that we have up there online. So you can just go to the website, wayru.io. There's a link to the docs, and you will be able to see everything there for anybody watching. If you want more details about it, yeah.
Yeah, they can do that. All right. So another question would be about the environmental footprint of these operations. So what steps do you guys take to assess and minimize your environmental footprint during these operations?
So one of the reasons why we started building on Algorand and why we are building on Peak is due to the high TPS that they have for a fractional cost, and because they are both green blockchains. Every blockchain that we're looking into has to be a blockchain with a small carbon footprint, so that we can use that to offset our carbon footprint that we are leaving by using a specific blockchain. And yeah, those are the one of the main things that we considered about that. Then, since we haven't been making devices, we are thinking about the materials that are going to be used on the next devices that we can build. And since we are building Wayru OS, what we also want to do is, instead of just getting people to go out and spend and buying new devices that have an impact, they can just build their own devices by purchasing the motherboards and some elements for the Wi-Fi connectivity, or for other types of connectivity that we might have in the future, and build their own cases for their own devices. So they can do this by recycling plastic waste and turning that into their own cases. So this is probably the main things that we have been focusing on. And of course, we will focus on more things as the network grows. We will see what the impact is so we can take action into leveraging that impact. Since the network is not huge yet, we haven't actually seen a specific points of negative impact that we are creating, but this will happen in the future, and we cannot take care of it until it happens. So once it happens, we will of course take some action and try to leverage that impact that we generate.
All right. So let's stick to the performance part. So besides the financial performance, of course, how do you guys measure and define success? Are there any particular social or community outcomes the projects you build seek to accomplish? Like the one you mentioned about opening the sandwich shop near the Wi-Fi.
So there are several that I can mention. So one is of course this huge impact, cases that like the one I mentioned about Senora Gladys. But if we talk about just the business side and what our metrics, the metrics that we take like most into consideration is the networks that are shared every week, the amount of daily active users that we get, and the monthly new hotspot operators that we onboard, because these are three different types of actions, right? A user can just download the app and get online. Another user can download the app but start sharing networks. And then one can decide to become a full hotspot operator and buy a device. So these are probably the metrics that we take most, that are more important to us. But as of impact, I believe that the number of connections that we get, because we can get an active user that connected 10, 20 times in one day because it's moving, he or she is moving around and they get online. So it's probably the number of connections are most precious, one of the most precious KPIs, because this means that the network has usage. And if the network has usage, anything else that we build around it will have a purpose, and of course will be successful. The real problem is when you have no users on your network, which is one of the hardest pieces to a deepin project. So, you know, the deepin flywheel, right? You reward operators to deploy hotspots before they get users, until they get users, and then you reward them for serving the users. We try to hack that a little bit farther and try to get hotspots, not hotspots, but Wi-Fi networks shared by the community with just the application. You can just share your network with password. It will be encrypted, and others can just go and get online whenever they're nearby, and you'll get rewarded per connection there. So when we did this, we started mapping networks through our community, and we have almost 7 million networks mapped today on our platform. So yeah, I think this usage of the network is the most important, because this will drive operators to want to deploy on the network, because they know that there is going to be usage, and they will be able to see where the most usage is happening. So I think these KPIs are good for everybody, not just business-wise, but community-wise and ecosystem-wise, that it's actually working and being used. And then, of course, if it's used, revenue is coming in. So the usage is the most important part.
All right. So based on these questions, up until now, we can just figure out that Wayru has a real mission. It's not just about making money. So I want to ask you about how can interested individuals contribute to your mission and support you guys?
So I think like the best place to start is to understand what we are building. Check out the docs, read the white paper, read all the specifics about the different pieces to Wayru, download our mobile app, because by downloading the app, you are promoting the growth of this decentralized network. You download the app, you share your app you share the app with your friends, and you can start earning rewards today by downloading the app and start validating networks. As I said, we have almost 7 million, maybe a little bit over 7 million networks now. It grows every day. And they need to be validated. Because if you share a network, somebody else has to validate that network so that you can start earning rewards. Because if it's not validated, we cannot make sure that it's actually there. We cannot start to reward you. So people can get involved and can start helping us by validating networks. This is one of the, I think, is one of the most unappreciated features that we have today, that people haven't actually gotten the grasp to, that they can actually go and start earning crypto rewards today. And there is about 7 million networks for the grabs to be validated. So yeah, I encourage everybody to download the app and go do that. And of course, share networks. When you share networks, you are helping to expand the network just by using your cell phone. You don't even need to buy a device. You can share Wi-Fi, you can share your favorite restaurant's Wi-Fi, and you will be rewarded when somebody uses that through our application.
All right. So let's talk also about security and privacy, because I'm interested about what measures does Wayru implement to protect the security and privacy of its users, of course, within the decentralized network.
Yeah, so we do several things for security-wise. So we prioritize the security and privacy of our users through several measures, right? We use VLANs to separate our open and private networks within the Wayru hotspots. Additionally, we ensure that clients within each network are also isolated from each other. So when you get online through a specific VLAN, you are getting online through a specific tunnel yourself. And if I get online to the same device, I get connected to the device through a different tunnel, so I cannot snoof around and see who's connected and everything, right? So this is one of the measures that we take. Our enterprise network employs strong Wi-Fi encryption protocols as well, such as WPA2 and TLS to encrypt all transmitted traffic, right? So everything that you transmit back and forth with the network, it's secure and it's encrypted. What else? Sensitive user credentials are always encrypted as well when transmitted over the network. So this is especially important over our open network, right? We do also regular firmware updates, which allows us to address security vulnerabilities promptly and maintain our network's integrity, right? So we also do a lot of firmware updates to our devices. Everything happens remotely, so it just happens when it needs to happen. We also leverage OpenWRT's open source software, which enhances our network security and transparency, enabling swift identification and resolution of vulnerabilities by the community, right? Because remember, our firmware is built on top of open source technologies so that the community can then help out to build more compatibility and of course build a more secure network as well. What else? Our monitoring system helps us keep a vigilant eye on the network's health and security as well. It generates alerts for unusual behavior without compromising users or operators' privacy. So it's not about specific person did this, but we can get these alerts to understand that there is just unusual activity happening in specific access points. And of course, key metrics for this alert include traffic volume, unexpected spikes in usage, irregular CPU load, abnormal memory usage, and of course, an abnormal amount of users in a specific hotspot. Because if you have a hotspot that usually gets 2-3 users a day, and then you just get 300, 400 users out of nowhere, that might look suspicious. So this is how we leverage the security for everybody involved, users, operators, and of course, us as the builders.
All right. Could you maybe share about some future goals that you guys have at Wayru, and particularly regarding your contribution to the worldwide connectivity?
Yeah, so we hope to expand our current partnerships with the United Nations, making this partnership global, not just local. This is one of the main things that we are driving to get, because this will help solve these problems directly to people that need connectivity today. So this is one of the main things that we want to achieve in the future. We, of course, are building a multi-chain solution, as I mentioned. We want to launch our token this year, and we want to launch our token once we have compatibility with a couple of blockchains that we are actually currently building on top of, including Peak. This is another thing. Of course, get as many compatible devices as possible in the upcoming months so that we can get a huge spike or growth spike in hotspots deployed, making it easier for more people to get devices near them, because maybe all the devices that we have compatibility today are not available in your local, I don't know, electronics store. So the more compatibility we have, the better. In the future, of course, we'll open hackathons and bounty programs so that people can start building compatibility for us and get rewarded for it. Because since we are using open source protocols, we can leverage that as something that we can use to enhance our community's involvement in the future.
All right. So, as a final question, I would like to ask you that aside from improving internet access, how do you envision decentralized technologies in tackling wider social and economic challenges?
Well, there's so much that we can talk about that, but let's talk about the two things that we are focused on that I can probably give a better opinion about, which is decentralized physical infrastructure networks and real-world asset tokenization, right? So I believe that DePIN is on the way to disrupt a lot of sectors around the world, and it's going to happen starting this year, 2025 and 2026. We're going to be looking at major disruptions of so many sectors that DePIN can tap into. Telecommunications being one of them, which we are, of course, very interested on. And that's one thing. I also believe that it's going to be the main driver, one of the main drivers, at least for this next bull run, DePIN and real world assets. And the amount of assets in the world that can be tokenized is out of this world. We're talking about north of $800 trillion, I believe, maybe more, of assets that can be tokenized. And I think that one of the first things that are going to be tokenized, talking about my expertise and area, are machines from the pins, right? So in our specific case, we deploy machines, right, that provide connectivity. These generate rewards, but we're also going to tokenize, because Wayru is a decentralized and tokenized internet network. So we are going to tokenize these devices so that people from elsewhere can invest in the tokenization of a real world asset that is generating value some way, one way or the other. In this case, the value is Wi-Fi access to people that need connectivity. So this value has a cost, and this cost turns into rewards, and those rewards are of course rewarded to the people that participated, either the people who tokenized the device and invested from this device from elsewhere, or people deploying these devices and just being a regular DePIN. So I see DePIN and real world assets making great impact and huge dents on the world that we know today, positive dents, that is. And I'm glad to be part of that. I'm glad to be participating on this. I think we are helping lead the way to make this possible. Well, I truly believe that Wayru OS, it's a main catalyzer for this to happen, because this will make a dent in the DePIN sector, allowing so many people to get onboarded without us being the main point of getting the devices, right? So yeah, I think those two, DePIN and real world assets, for this next bull run are my main takes.
So sounds like a great way to end this podcast. So thank you, Charvel, for your time. Thank you for our audience for sticking around, listening, or watching this podcast. Charvel, if you have some parting words, just go ahead.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for everybody for watching. I always try to leave this note when I talk to people about what we do, that we truly believe that the internet is the one single thing that has changed humankind more than anything else in the history. The huge leap forward on technology is thanks to internet access and the broad access to information. So we truly believe that providing connectivity to a global community, to everybody in the planet, can make changes or impact so huge, both personally and collectively, so immense that are very hard to predict. So this is what drives us. And hopefully you like what we're doing. You join our network, you join our efforts, download the app, check out our socials, follow us on our socials. We are very active. Make all the questions you want. I am always active within the communities answering questions, because I also believe that the founders and the builders have to be there for the community, participating and explaining why things are happening and how things are happening. So I'm always there. So make sure to join our communities and let's chat.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you.
Take good care.
You too. Bye. Thanks.
And that's a wrap for this section of Hipther Talks. Thank you for being a part of our journey today. Don't forget to tune in next week for more insights and discussions. Stay connected with us on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and more. Until then, keep exploring and keep growing. We'll see you next time.